This is going on. Let's restart this. So just puff puff. Alright, so we could talk into whichever one we want to. This one is cool because this is probably the best quality. Alright, so today's June 16th? Yes.
Something like that.
Something like that. It's June 16th, and yesterday night we experienced Psilocybin, the magic mushroom. And we just wanted to express and let you guys know exactly what happened, like throughout the whole day, how we felt about it, what transpired about it, and why we're here now as well. You looking at the Facebook one?
Yeah.
Alright, well feel free. Look at which one you want to. You know, but this one's cool. This might be distracting in the early going, so let's focus on this one.
Okay, cool.
Alright. So how did the day start?
The day started, I was talking on the phone at my job.
Oh, right. Alright.
And so out of nowhere I ended up like
Having a little accident.
right, like I damaged my company vehicle and my job let me go, and I called Arjenis and he said just come to New York.
Right.
So I rode up to New York. It said it would be 3 hours, ended up being like a 4-hour drive.
Right.
And when we got here, we just got right to vibrating high.
Right. So I want to mention we had watermelons on deck,
Right.
provided by a good friend of mine, Alicia.
Seeded watermelon.
Yeah, seeded watermelon as well. And I haven't had watermelon in a long time. Like, I think prior to today, maybe like a week ago, you know, but before I would have watermelons all the time. And this time, it was just in abundance, you know? And you didn't have seeded watermelon like...
No, I had watermelon, but not seeded.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so this was like the first time in a long time.
Yeah.
All right. So we got the seeded watermelon, and we came home. We started going at it with the watermelon, of course. And we're playing Uno, right?
Right.
We started playing Uno. And you were falling asleep. You were getting sleepy. I'm like, just take a rest. Just go to
I was
sleep.
falling asleep. You was cheating. He wasn't playing the game like with integrity. So that kind of turned me off too.
Right.
And then,
Yeah. And then you laid back, and I was talking to a friend of mine, and from there, how'd you start feeling about the watermelon that you ate?
oh yeah, the watermelon caused me to feel like I had just smoked marijuana, like a very small dosage of marijuana.
Right.
And I started feeling like my mind got really calm, and then I started to think that you and your friend Alicia put something in the watermelon,
Right.
and that y'all were like plotting against me and
Right.
stuff like that.
Right. So just to be clear, right, like me and Puff Puff, we met about a week ago in person
Right.
at the what is it called?
It was like a
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna
Yeah.
festival.
Hare Krishna Festival, and because of what happened, you got the opportunity to come to New York today. So you trust me, but there's still some lingering like, am I the person I say I am?
Right.
As well. Do I? So like you question my integrity in Uno, which in respect to Uno, I'm a great Uno player, and I don't cheat, but that was just so I could push you to like, you know, go to sleep. At least that's my perception of it. I wanted you to just, because you had the cards in your hand, you was falling asleep.
Right. I had a long couple days because I worked all day Friday. Then I got up early. Well, me and you were on the phone all night Friday.
Right.
And then I got up early Saturday and went to work. And then I drove 4 hours here. So it was time just to take a nap.
Right. Exactly. So I was cheating. I looked at your cards. You threw the cards down. You finally went to sleep. Alicia and I, we kept talking, but you started feeling a little paranoid from the watermelon. Right, so you started to question if we was plotting on you or whatever. You started feeling that way. But Alicia and I, we were just hanging out as we always do.
Right.
Right. So, as a matter of fact, I offered. I said, you know, I have some psilocybin
Yeah.
while we're playing Uno, and you were reserved. You were like, nah.
Yep. I was like, nope, I'm
Yeah,
good.
yeah, exactly. So I said, cool. But later, after Alicia had left, you brought it back up, right?
Right. Like, so what was that brown stuff on the table? Because I thought that was the mushroom.
Right, and that was something totally different. That was not the mushrooms. That was something that Alicia had.
Right.
So it wasn't the mushrooms. We decided to take it. So for those that like want to ask how much we took, I would say we had like a, I don't know how to explain it in like grams, but it was like an inch per stalk of the mushroom, like 4 of them.
It was a little bigger than an inch, like maybe an inch and a half.
All right, inch and a half. I took 2, you took 1, right? I thought you took 2, but it was revealed that you didn't really want to, you didn't really know what's going on.
I was cautious about it because you gotta be like, I didn't know what to expect, so I didn't want to take too much.
Right. So initially we didn't really feel anything, right?
No.
We didn't feel anything. I think we started to continue to eat watermelon. Ate more watermelon. We're at the table. I remember looking at you and like I said, I think I feel something. I'm starting to like see, I would see like your face kind of like pronounced a bit. Like it was like, and I don't know if you felt anything at that time yet.
I didn't feel anything. Right.
So you kept looking at me like what's going on? What's going on? So like the first time I really felt it was we were going to the kitchen. You want to talk about that or skip that part?
We were just going to the kitchen to get food.
Right, we was going to the kitchen to get food. You know, it was a lot of shaking going on, going to the kitchen. It was getting up, more movement, and it felt like the mushroom, because of all the movement, it started to like expand and like spread.
Flow through the body.
Right, flow through the body because of the movement. Then after that, I think we said let's.
Then like we started feeling our face tingling.
Right.
And just like warm sensation.
Right.
And then I think that's when like you turned on music or something.
Yeah.
Or was it playing prior to that?
The music probably was playing prior, but eventually we decided, you know what? Let's like bring it down a bit because we didn't. Oh, our stomachs were hurting. That's what it was.
Yeah.
We started getting stomach pains, and we're like let's just lay down. Like let's just relax a bit. And I'll say this too, just to let y'all know, I had done psilocybin a while ago, but my emotional state wasn't necessarily the best. I was feeling a little down. So I had psilocybin before, but all it did was bring anxiety out for me. That's all it did, was bring anxiety out. And I was like, this can't be the experience people are talking about, you know? I also did psilocybin in Honduras, but it wasn't dehydrated. And I didn't have the best experience either. It wasn't really psychedelic, it was just like intense emotions. And the other time, it was just like bad feelings. And prior to that, just to be clear, I had done ayahuasca a week before. And ayahuasca made me feel like on top of the world. Nothing could make me feel bad. So taking the psilocybin a week later, it just reversed the effects of the ayahuasca. I'll go into ayahuasca another time, not for this video, but I'll go into that. So now we're in the room, relaxing, right?
Right.
You want to lead it? You want to lead?
We just relaxing, and then like before we knew it, we were seeing like gold geometrical shapes everywhere throughout the room. Right. And it started off like very gentle, and then as the hours went on, it really intensified. Right.
It was so. There's a lamp and it's golden, and what I was seeing was from the lamp on the ceiling, I could see like fluttering almost. I could see like fluttering, everything vibrating, and then the geometrical shapes as well. And we're just observing, you know, and we felt like we were in tune, right? Right. But then for you, things got a little left, right? Things felt a little left.
Yeah.
All right. So what were you seeing when we're relaxing? What did I look like to you?
You looked like you had layers on your face. Like it was so many faces of you on top of your actual face.
Right.
And then like when I would look away, then I would see your faces on the wall. And then even like sometimes if I like close my eyes, I would see there too.
Right.
And then you also looked like very golden, like that gold pattern was all on your face.
Right.
And that was pretty cool. You were smiling a lot.
Yes, that too. So see, so for me to speak, I have to talk about the Bufo session a bit as well. But like, so instinctually, or like my body would vibrate to smile. So it just happened. It just kept doing it. Like, and this happened in my Bufo session. Bufo's another psychedelic, and when I did it, my body would just start to just vibrate and just smile. And I didn't necessarily understand it, but I realized in certain figures and certain forms, there's a frequency that perpetuates through us. So if we smile, we feel good. If we sit up straight, we feel good as well. Mm-hmm. So I was smiling, and I would look at you, and what were you thinking?
I was thinking, oh shit, this is why, because we ain't even explained the part where we originally took the mushrooms, and I was only breaking off tiny pieces. I didn't want to take the whole thing, and then you were like, no, you should take the whole thing because I took like 4 last time and it didn't do anything. So then I took the whole thing and was just like, all right, it probably won't do much of nothing, but then I realized like, shit, I should have just took a tiny piece, like what I was saying.
And this whole time, I thought you took the whole 2 of them. So I'm like, I started feeling a little guilty, like, oh my gosh, because you started to really be paranoid a bit, like what's happening here? What's happening here? And I'm next to you. I'm just smiling, like, just smiling, feeling amazing. And in respect to the geometrical shapes, I could see them on you as well. I could see them, but not as pronounced as you described it for me. Like you said, you would see my face in patterns, and you'll see my face all over the walls. And then it was a little too much for you to handle, right? It's a little bit. Yeah. And then for me, at some point, I laid like flat. I laid flat on my back, and my body started to just like convulse, do certain things. And I knew what it was. I knew it was happening. Right? I knew it was happening. Like in my journey, like I said, I've taken ayahuasca, and then I've also taken Bufo, which is another psychedelic. And in that session, my body did similar things, but it was for a very short period of time. But the after effects was gratitude and just love and like the most blissful feelings. So I started to remember what happened in the Bufo session. But this one was more like, it was just more, I was just more present with it versus the Bufo that was just like happening so fast. So I knew it was coming. And I got up, and then I went to another room. Am I going too fast? Am I skipping parts?
I think we should also explain that although like it kind of sounds creepy to say like there were layers to your face and your face was all around the room, but there was also this high vibrational energy that was very present in the room. Right. And that helped to not feel too like uneasy about it. Right. So there was like this energy that was very, very welcoming, very positive, like all those good words. Right. And then even to like try to describe it now, it's like, basically it was like a euphoria energy. Right. That was present in the room that you could tap into if you so choose. It wasn't forcing you or anything. Right. It was there, and it's kind of like, it's always there. It's always everywhere. Right. And to go back, I was trying to coach you. I was like, Puff, just lay back, because I realized when I lay back, my body starts to get into that happy moment, that happy feeling, and I could just start to I started to like do things that would actually match the patterns we saw around us, you know, and it just kept happening. And then that's when I eventually went to another room and I started to lay down. Well,
no, we gotta talk about more. We gotta talk.
Yeah.
I can't. It's beyond that. Like,
you was like just laid back. You might have like reached your hand out and like touched my shoulder. So whenever Arjenis would touch me, like his hand like would look like gold, and then it would intensify my experience. Right. So like we were having the same experience and a different experience at the same time.
Exactly.
So I felt like I had reached my peak and I wanted to come down, take it down.
Right.
And he was increasing it whenever he would touch me.
Right.
And then I'm just like, I just need you to stop.
Yeah, and I want to keep going in. I'm like, Puff, just relax. Just lay back and smile about it. Like you can get there. And you were like, there was a point, like what really got me out of the, from beside you was when I think I touched you. Let's do it. I touched you, and what you say? You were like, you feel like throwing up.
Yeah, because it was that feeling that we originally felt in our stomachs. That nauseous feeling was like, it was still there, but not as intense. But it was just like kind of annoying. Like if somebody was like to keep poking you, it was almost like that, and I wanted it out. Right. So I'm just like.
You take me back to the moment, like what was happening, like I'm remembering now what actually happened. So yeah, you wanted it out and I wanted more of it, and I was trying to nurture you because I have had prior experiences with different psychedelics, and I just wanted to make sure that you were okay with it, and I didn't want you to feed into the paranoia energy that was there as well.
It was almost impossible to feed into that paranoia energy too much. Right. Because that other energy that was present was kind of like dominating. Like, I can't explain it, but it kind of just absorbed you to a certain extent.
Yeah, you explained it perfectly. Like, that's what it was. It was. The truth is like my intentions were pure, my intentions were good, and there was no energy, even if you had prior thoughts of whatever, it just didn't match that frequency. So it's like, I'm comfortable, and it would raise the truth of the intentions. So even if you had low vibrational thoughts, you had to deal with what was actually transpiring and the beauty that was around us, the sacred geometry, all of those things. And so I wanted to nurture you, and I wanted you to feel good, but at the same time I wanted to respect you. So every time I would try to like touch you and make you feel better, you just felt like throwing up. Like, you know what I mean? And I'm like, oh man. So I'm like, all right, I'm gonna have to leave. I'm gonna have to go because I don't want to keep you in fear, and I didn't want to make you feel away, and I also want to respect what you were going through, because what I was going through was vastly different from what you were going through in regards to the emotion of it. Like I felt super like high and happy about it, and you were like,
I kept saying like I want this to end. Like,
right. I was like, and
I don't want to do this anymore.
And what you mean? And so talk about what you asked me to do, and what I
said. Can you
you said you're not a good nurturer. That's what you mean. You said if you want to nurture, then
can you stick your finger down my throat and make me throw up this substance so that I won't feel these effects anymore?
Right. And I was reluctant. I'm like, come on, like yo, I didn't even want to experience it by myself. Like I didn't want to experience it. Like I was like, no, I don't want to.
Our video froze.
Okay, well that's that. That's cool with that one. We got this one. This is just a backup.
Okay. Are you gonna exit out of it?
We can start it over or whatever. Yeah. Oh, this computer froze actually. Anyway, we got this one and we got this live, so we could deal with either one. So yeah. So where were we? Oh yeah, you're telling me to basically stick my finger in your throat so you could vomit out what you were feeling in your stomach. And you wanted to end. It was just too intense. Every time I touched you, you said it was just too intense. It amplified the feeling. Yeah. And you were just like, enough is enough. You were like, I wanted to come down, I wanted to end. So I was like, all right, I am here to assist you in this process. And I'm like, all right, if that's what it takes, if you don't want to experience this, I will. So I actually did put my finger in your throat. I got the plastic bag. That's where the plastic bag came from. I went and got the plastic bag because I was like, go to the bathroom. You was like, you couldn't walk.
Every time I got up to walk, it intensified.
Right.
Like it was nothing I could do.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, I can get up. I'll go get the bag. I got the bags and I'm like, all right. You held the bag and I put my finger in your throat. Twice actually, right? The first time it didn't work. And then the second time I did it and it just didn't work at all. Like I was just like scared.
Right.
So then I did it and nothing happened and you were just like.
I was just like, well, I'm gonna just have to sit with it.
Right, exactly. So then that's when I left the room. I left the room and I went into the other room and I just said, I knew what this is. I knew what was coming for me. I just didn't experience it to the as long as I did with Bufo. Bufo was a concentration of experiences that's unbelievable to talk about. I will though. But this one was like the scenic route to what was happening. So when I went in the room, I laid on my yoga mat. I literally laid on my yoga mat. And like, so if we're sitting, but let's say I'm laying down. So I'm laying down and again, I was doing what I was doing when I was laying down with Puff Puff. I was like this. Now
it wasn't a voluntary action.
Right. These movements were not movements that I went into it to do. Like this is not something that I do in my day-to-day life. I don't like lay back in. So I was doing that in the bed prior, laying down, and I was doing these faces like. And what did you think when I was doing that, as a matter of fact, before I left?
I felt like it was too much. Like I'm like, why is he acting like that? Like, and then I felt like you started out just smiling, and
right.
then your actions started to intensify, like go to the extreme. Like you was like walking really strange.
Well,
and then
that happened a little after when I finally got out, right? Right. So yeah, like I started to smile, and then my body would jerk. It started to jerk, just kept jerking, and my legs would then separate, like. And then I said to you, I said, I'm gonna need like more space. I said, I'm gonna need more space because I know what's happening here. Yeah. So that's when I got up.
Meanwhile, I thought you were doing all of that on purpose.
Yes.
And then later on, I found out.
Yeah, later on, right. That's the reality. What was happening to me was there's levels to the experience, right? And they're all an experience. You can observe the geometry, and what I had achieved was becoming the geometry. But even prior to that, now that I'm thinking about it, remember I was laying next to you and I said, do you hear that? Do you hear that sound? The sound was like this. I'm like, what? I'm like, you don't hear that? I'm thinking there's maybe a train going by, but then I'm remembering I would do reading on spirituality and say that there's this intense humming that people hear when they're tuning into a frequency. At the same time, I used to do construction, and a couple years ago, right? So I would think in my logical self, right, in practical mind, like people are just suffering with tinnitus. You know, like that's when you bang loud hammers all the time, and then your eardrums start to deteriorate, and you hear it ringing all the time. So I thought that's what people were experiencing. But I was asking, like, do you hear that? Do you hear that? And you were like, no, right? You wasn't hearing.
No, I didn't hear anything.
Right. So again,
all I heard was you.
Right. So I went into the other room and I laid down, and the most profound thing started to happen. Like I laid down, I started to do things like this. I'm gonna try to emulate it the best way I can. I started to do things like this, like, and my face just kept changing, like, and I was not controlling that. This is what would happen when I would lay back in a specific position. Like when I lay flat on my back, my legs started to jerk. So if you ever see a Merkaba, or what people call sacred geometry, my body started to form like that. It would just form into these shapes, and I would start to contort on the floor and just jerk all around, and I was not controlling this. It got to the point where I literally had risen up from my yoga mat, and I was I don't know if you guys ever gone lucid, but when you go lucid dream, you could float, you could fly. I felt like I was living out the lucidity in this realm or in this conscious state. So I would my body would jerk upwards. It would go upwards to the ceiling. And it literally got to the point where I was like on one part of my knee and the rest of my body was up. And then I would rise and I was literally like trying to stand, but my body would float upwards and it would hit the wall. I was turning and I'm like, yo, what the fuck? So this was happening and I'm still like, oh my gosh, this is new experience for me. So I'm like, Puff Puff is gonna hear this. So I'm still checking on Puff. I'm coming out like, Puff, I'm having these amazing experiences. If you lay back, you can experience it. Just trust it. You can feel it. You were laying on your stomach, right?
I was laying on my side.
Yeah. Still trying to just let it pass, right?
Yeah, I felt like when you were in the other room, what was happening with me is I just seen the golden geometrical shapes and just stared at it for hours.
Right.
Hours.
Right. So I would periodically just check up on Puff because I'm like, I don't want, again, in all practicality, it's the second time we're meeting in person. Me and Puff, we speak on the phone all the time. We speak on it all the time. This is somebody that's very close to me, but we live in different states, so we can't see each other as much as we would like. So, I'm making sure that she's okay. I don't want her to be afraid of what's happening because what I'm feeling is the most, is this joy and how is this even happening? I was not faking it. It got to the point where I was in my room and I was bouncing off the walls and I'm literally trying to put my feet down on the ground. And I'm like, this is what they must mean when they say higher frequency. I'm receiving downloads or clarity and it's okay, this is what it means. This is the from here. This is everything from here. Me being an earth sign, I'm a Capricorn sun, Taurus moon, Virgo rising. I'm very earthy, very practical, very logical. So it's I'm very grounding. My energies, would you agree my energy is very grounding?
Very grounding. So
even prior to the mushrooms, we were doing grounding activities. They were very somber, but this was
just chill.
Yeah, we were just chill. We were just chilling. But after this, there was no physical grounding. The emotions might have been grounding, you could trust, but my physical was just in the air. And then I would come out, again, try to reassure you, and then I would go back in. Right. Every time I came in, you was like,
yo, it was too much.
Go back where you at.
Yeah. I was like, just stop talking to me because it was too much going on in the room. I'm seeing gold, I'm seeing colors shoot past me.
Right.
Then I'm seeing you and you trying to talk to me, but you're not talking how you regularly talk. Your voice is making tones that you usually don't make.
Right.
And then that was throwing me off and I'm thinking that you're making your voice sound like that on purpose. So I'm like, what's wrong with him? This is not the time to be playing around like that. And then he was walking strange. You was making certain movements with your body. And I'm just like, what, he putting on some type of performance? I don't have time for this. Just go do what you do. Not right now.
Right. And I'll say this. I wanted to thank you for that because it was we're all healing, right? We're all getting past what we need to get past for us to be us. And for myself, I'm very nurturing, almost to the point of sometimes my own degradation or not experiencing what I need to experience for myself. So the fact that you were telling me, look, just go back in the other room, whatever you're doing, just do that and leave me in there. I was like, yes, I can do that and feel okay with that. So it was profound. I was like, good, I'm also thinking I hope this ain't the last time I see you because I'm like, yo.
That was something else I was thinking. I'm like, yo, this guy is going crazy.
Right.
You around somebody and their face is making the movements that you just showed.
Yeah.
And then their body is it was almost just like you ain't had no control over your body.
I had no control.
And then the stuff you was talking, you like, oh, this was happening for a reason. Like there have been certain like signs, and we were drawn to each other magnetically. Like you was going into the whole philosophy of it,
right?
And it was too much for my mind to handle.
Right.
And I'm sitting there like, shit. I just took mushrooms. Like, am I crazy? Like, what if I'm stuck like this forever? Like, what is my family going to think? Like, maybe I should just leave. But then it's like, how am I even going to drive my car?
Right.
And then I'm just like, is he about to just go crazy? Because I don't know what type of tip he on right now.
Right.
But it seemed like anything could happen at this point because you're not being who you regularly are.
Right.
You were being somebody completely different.
Right. It was, so the degree of control, right? I could at the time, I'll put myself in a position to receive that frequency. So I was transforming before her eyes and before my own reality. I was literally transforming. So there was a moment where I'm like, Puff, just lay back and you're gonna be able to do what I do. Just lay back. And then when I got in that room, I would also lay back, but then it would become more intense. Every time I'd be in a space where I can only see me, it would just crystallize and become more concentrated of what was happening. And I'll say this. I wanted to say what you experienced, like, is this gonna happen forever? My experience with the psychedelics, especially with my first ayahuasca session, is the first night of it, I experienced that same thing. I was going through things and I was nervous, like, oh my God, this is gonna happen forever. Mm-hmm. So it's like, when I was explaining to you, was everything happened for a reason. I'm quantifying everything that happened prior to even today and making sense of it until today. So I'm like, wow, I can relate to what you're experiencing because I experienced it. And my ayahuasca session was more superficial, but it was still very deep and necessary. But it was like a level for me to get past. Like, okay, listen, this is an experience, and that's what it is. At the time, I was kind of scared, like you were today or yesterday.
Because it was, well, we already know, like, right. It was my first time taking any type of psychedelic. Right. And you already had prior experience with it.
Right. So yeah, it's very understandable. Like all the paranoia or all of that it comes with the territory, you know. So it's definitely okay to experience that. So yeah, again, I'm gonna transition to a part, right? Like I wanna also express myself. This is just not about the psilocybin. This is about our experiences and like the purpose of what we're doing and why we do it. Like a lot of what drives my specific spiritual direction is living from the heart, but also my mother. She transition is to pass away when I was 2 years old. And there's this, I would say, what feels like a void. The fact that I just don't have a physical memory of me and my mother, I'm always, it drives me to, I want to experience her, right? So we're going to take a step back. When you came here, one of the first things you did was you went into my photo album.
Yep. And there was a lot of pictures of you and your mom.
Right.
She was very loving. Like, it seemed like she loved you a lot because there were so many pictures of you and her in different environments. Like, y'all were doing stuff all the time.
Right.
Like, you could clearly see she really loved you, and you just looked like you were well taken care of.
Right. And like I said, she transitioned when I was 2 years old, but you were almost shocked at how many photos were in that.
Yeah.
Right. And what was happening?
For me, it looked like more photos than the average person would have of them at 2 years old.
Right. Or one. It was even prior. So it was a lot of photos. And
you're the cutest baby too.
Thank you, Puff Puff.
Sure.
Maybe I'll put the picture up so you guys can see. But yeah. So I want to say this. I have those photos. I can look at those photos all the time. You know, Puff and I, we talk about lucid dreaming and how to induce certain people within a lucid dream. And there's things that I could do to experience my mother. At the same time, I don't do it routinely, right? Like, I can admit that going through the pages of seeing my mother and myself, it's a little tough for me because I don't remember. So it's almost like I'm looking at not only a shell of myself as a baby, but a shell of a woman that clearly had this deep adoration and love for me, you know, and I just don't remember it. And I really want to experience that. And you came and you were going through it, learning me and showing me her. So from then, I'll go back into the other room. When I was laying on a yoga mat, I started to contort. And again, I'm not doing this by choice. It's just happening. I contorted.
Didn't it happen because you became one with the energy?
Yeah, that's literally, yeah. This is what happened. This is what literally happened. I became one, or I was becoming, honestly. It was already there. And I'll say, it's kind of like I'm jumping ahead, but we're all one with that energy. It's just, are we aware of it? Can we observe it the way you were observing it? I'm trying to check so you go. All right, you know, so are we observing it, and then are we it? We're all of that. So what was happening for me is I literally became the energy that people call higher power, people call God, people call the universe. It perpetuates through us, and I became it. And it was through the whole night, it was just becoming more intense. It was just, so initially I could choose to be there if I put my body in a position. But I'm not gonna go there yet. I wanna go in the linear way. So again, back to the room. I'm in the room and my body contorted to the fetal position. And I'm telling you, it took me to the past. I literally experienced my, as you said, a rebirth, and it was also me experiencing literally coming out the birth canal. I felt like a baby. I could see the light. When we close our eyes, we see various images. Sometimes we see things we don't want to see. But this one, it was literally, again, the form that we're in creates a frequency, or we tune into a frequency. So I was in a fetal position on the floor, contorted. I could not get out. And I started to do this too, like. So it created that reality physically where I was a baby again, coming out of my mother's name is Denise. Everybody called her June. We're in her month, June. So, you know, respect to all the mothers out there, as well as my mother specifically. So even that, it's like, it's all happening in synchronization. It's all happening. So I experienced that, and while going through all of that, I wanted to give you reverence and gratitude for bringing that energy back to me, because I've been seeking that. That's why I took the ayahuasca, because I wanted to experience that, and I did, but in a different way. The bufo, and I did, but in a different way. And then this was just like the level for me to experience that. So